Hey guys.
Hey, ROMEOs.
How are we doing today?
Very good.
Nice to see everybody.
Very, very good.
Have you guys recovered from the haters?
That was good. That was a gangbuster episode that we
So
did.
listen, for those of us, first of all, let's welcome back our viewers. And
Welcome
listeners.
back, everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. Always a treat to have you with us.
And we hope the audio on this one will be much better than last week.
Yeah, we apologize for some of the audio difficulties we've had with at least one of our recent episodes.
Hello? Hello?
So Noran, given that you've been very active responding on behalf of the Romeos to some of the people who are, I want to say kind enough, but
well,
who
listen.
left comments. Why don't you just weigh in on this?
Well, first of all, thanks to everyone for taking the time to comment, because even if the comment is, derogatory or whatever, at least you took the time and the 3 brain cells you needed to kind of type something out, which is great. Not a problem. One of the guys specifically in the comment section, I just want to thank him and kind of, shout out to you. I don't know if you're listening. I hope you are. It would be great if you did, listen to this one as well. But, you started with some, silly comment about us, being old ladies or whatever. And I thought it was going to degenerate, but you came back with some unbelievably strong points, some, well thought out answers. I really appreciate what you did. And yeah, it turned out to be, that we were more alike than not in terms of, I agreed with most of the stuff that he was saying. I think most of us would have agreed with what
So he's a lady too.
At the end, as it turns out.
I wouldn't go there, but anyway, shout out to you. I forget your handle, but that's all good.
Yeah.
And for everyone else, listen, I'll challenge everyone to listen more than 2 or 3 minutes, because people, when you first start listening, I guess everyone got the idea.
Well,
that
some
we're
people
all,
jump to conclusions.
yeah, that we're all libs and oh my
And
God. I look at Dominic here, and I think he's the furthest from a lib that I've ever seen.
Yeah, pretty much.
Myself and Pat as well.
Or assume that we were Harris supporters or lovers because of certain comments we made, when nothing can be further from the truth, at least for 3 out of the 4 Romeos.
Yeah.
In any event, all that being said,
Thanks for your comments. Appreciate it.
yes. And we've also had a few more subscribers over the course of the
Excellent.
last few episodes.
Right on.
So thank you very much. If you're listening in once again and have not yet subscribed, please do so.
Yeah, get off your
Greatly
ass.
appreciate it.
Get off your ass. Subscribe.
That's okay.
All right.
All right. So guys,
What are we talking about?
why don't we stay on the track of somewhat controversial topics and take this opportunity to discuss what appears to me anyway to be an anti-liberal movement that is taking root across Western civilization.
Thank God.
And we're going to wait before Aki weighs in on this topic so that some of our listeners and viewers don't jump to conclusions.
Right.
And ask Dominic to get us started.
Geez. Well, this is the way I see it. Liberalism and socialism are 2 movements that all they do is they take you down a slippery slope or a rabbit's hole to mediocrity. That's it. Or to, serve the agenda of what I call the marginals of society.
Don't you think that's true of any movement?
Possibly, but this one is even more.
Okay.
And I just, to me, like socialism, they try to identify themselves as Robin Hood. Take from the rich, give to the poor. No, you take from the hard worker and give it to the lazy. That's what you're doing.
If only it were that simple, Dominic.
Yeah, well, that's what they're doing. Yeah.
All right, Nuran.
So I agree mostly with what you said, but what I will come back with to Aki's delight, I would say, is that I think in any society you need to have a certain amount of safety net for certain people. There are people who don't have mental capacity to do stuff. There are people in society that do need help. So in the old days, in a village, if we were in a village that was far away from everyone else and we had to be self-sustaining, you'd always have the village idiot, for example. And I won't look around this table and point anyone out. However, maybe I'm the village idiot here.
So you agree with one of the recent viewers who commented that we were all idiots? You would take exception and say all but one.
All but one.
Okay.
Whoa.
You'll have your time. You'll have your time.
I said all but 3. I'll be the idiot. I don't mind. My point is that in the couple of hundred years ago, 1,000 years ago, whatever, you would be self-sustaining as a village. When you had crops, you wouldn't let someone starve in your little village of 200, 300, 500 people, whatever. People would take care of each other. So to me, there's a certain amount that you have to do because you don't want to see people dying and starving. Not that they are in society, but to me, that bar has to be at a level that society can afford. So you need to do it in a smart way. You can't just start throwing programs and money at people. And to Dominic's point, for those who just don't feel like working and who are potentially just lazy asses, you don't support that. Okay, so I'm not sure exactly how to do it properly, but there's got to be some sort of test or some sort of way to not be wasting money and throwing good money after bad in these social programs. So you need social programs, but you got to be damn careful the way that you put them together. That's my 2 cents.
Absolutely. I mean, I agree with that. But let's not forget, if you look at the society that we have, everything that we've taken for granted was achieved through liberalism and liberal philosophies.
Sorry.
What?
Our Constitution.
Let's
excuse
rewind.
me.
Let's rewind.
Let's rewind. You want to look at the American Constitution? What is the American Constitution built on? The American Constitution is built on liberal thinking and liberal philosophers.
On slavery and
Of course, no system was perfect. All right, so do you want to just throw out the American Constitution because that's a product of liberalism?
He doesn't have the right to do that, but go on.
Okay, but that's a product of liberalism. So
that is your opinion.
It's not my opinion. It's history. It's a historical fact. If you look at the philosophers, the thinkers behind the American Constitution, they're liberal thinkers.
Okay, so what does that have to do with where we are now today?
But you're just saying, okay, well,
In the Constitution, did they say that people should not be starving in the streets?
I'm giving you one concrete example of how. I'm giving one concrete example
Are
of
they
how
talking about
liberalism,
social programs?
the value of liberalism and what liberalism has done for civilization.
Aki,
do you disagree with that?
Let him articulate his
disagree
point,
with that?
and then we'll go ahead. Finish your thought.
That's so liberalism is the bedrock upon which all of the systems and all of the freedoms and all of the laws that gave us unprecedented, prosperity.
So what does that mean? We got to kiss the ass of liberals because of that?
I'm just saying, do you recognize that this
That's
historical
historic.
fact?
Okay, I'll say yes.
Thank
but
you.
what does that do?
Thank you.
That
What do you
does
mean?
fuck all for the conversation,
let's go.
though.
No, I'll tell you what that does. Because what's happening right now is that for too many of us, we're completely discounting all that.
What do you mean discounting?
We're discounting all that because it was all very hard work.
What
It was
does a
struggles to be able to build civilization, to build a community where people are respected, where we have human rights, where we have social justice.
This is all hyperbole.
This is what liberalism represents. And what's happening now, it's become acceptable to start chipping away at those core values around human rights. To get hysterical about issues, to be entitled, to be aggrieved. That goes against everything that we overcame in order to reach a certain level of civilization. We haven't solved all of our problems. But please, the alternative is me, my interests. I don't have to support you. I don't have to be in a community. I don't have to have any sense of social responsibility. It's all about me and my grievances. That's where we're at.
It's the level of social responsibility that we're
wait.
arguing about. I'm not saying we shouldn't have any social responsibility. It's just the level. How much money do you want to give people?
Well,
then if we're agreeing,
forget about it. It's not about money. It is not just about money. It's about number one.
Is about
money. Do you
money.
believe in a constitution? Do you believe a democracy should be based on a constitution and some rules of the game?
There's a difference between a democracy and socialism. Can we agree to that?
No. Social democracy is an accepted mainstream system of government that we see in Europe. All of Western Europe, our allies, our economic partners, are social democracies.
Actually, the question I asked was, does democracy equal socialism? The answer cannot be yes.
What is socialism? Define socialism for me.
Well, that's a very difficult definition, but socialism in general and the way people think about socialism is what Dominic said. Take from the rich, give to the poor.
No.
That's
fairness. It's about fairness. It's about everybody.
That's your view of fairness.
Pulling their weight.
Yeah.
But that's the heart of the principle is everybody has a place at the table. The homeless person and the Bill Gates have a place at the table.
No, I disagree.
Well, then I'm sorry. Then
I disagree.
Then go back to the jungle.
Wait a
You're
second. You're disagreeing. I'd like to understand what table you're referring to.
I'm talking about our common table, our society. Doesn't everybody belong in our society?
Well, I'm sorry, but we talked about
Most members of our society who have entered society legitimately do belong there and have a place. Absolutely. That I will agree with.
But a homeless person have a place in your society?
A homeless person who lives
Or
here.
unhoused, excuse me.
Yeah,
This is the flip side.
No. Okay, well, we'll get
That's
we'll
the
get to that.
wokeness bullshit.
We'll get to that.
That's another, yeah,
I have no problem saying someone who's homeless or a homeless person.
unhoused. But yeah, I mean the current bullshit.
So I want to understand the circumstances that have led to a person being homeless, but as long as they're either born into this country or have been accepted through legal means into this country, absolutely they should be cared
As
for.
an asylum seeker, what is the status of the asylum seeker?
why'd you go to asylum seeker
Because
right
he's talking
now?
about if you're born into this country.
But hang on,
I said,
one argument
or
at
you
a
have
time.
been accepted into this country through legal means.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to unclog the ears.
No, but I know, but
and not
I hear
stay
you
so focused on your point of view that you're not willing to entertain other viewpoints.
because you know perfectly well you're being very sensible in the way you're presenting that, but for most people it's really these migrants, this invasion, and it's really
Okay.
getting hysterical.
Can we
and
stay
just
on
throwing out the baby
Hysterical.
with the bathwater?
Is it a valid point that across Western civilization, there have been over the course of the last decade or more, a growing number of people who have entered
Yes.
countries through illegal means? Is it true or not?
Yes, it is. It's true.
Well,
Okay, well, that's a problem that needs to be dealt
should a
with.
country allow that?
Okay, but that's
Which is a different point.
different. That's
so
a-
when
but
you're
you're the one who
asking
brought
me,
it up.
you're
No.
asking me about a homeless person
has
having
a place in your society.
absolutely.
Thank you. You?
Yeah, but not in my house.
That's a different question.
That's
because
so, come on.
because if we're
Actually.
if we're going to quickly evolve the conversation from who has a place in our society rightfully versus everyone should be entitled
To a home.
to a similar standard of living, you're going to lose me in a hurry.
No, that's
Because that is
communism.
absolutely not what
I am
something
not-
I can subscribe
Okay.
to in any
So
way, shape, or form.
let me answer your question about if a homeless person has a place in our society. The answer is absolutely yes, because he's a human being. There are human rights, and everyone's a human being. However, what we don't do, and where governments have failed miserably, is figuring out why that person is homeless and doing something about it. If it's about mental health, which is most of the problem that we have with homeless people, most of it is mental health issues.
Yes, it is.
And if you agree to that,
Yeah.
and the fact that none of the governments have figured out how to deal with the mental health issue because they've shut down all sorts of these mental institutions. They're afraid to force people into rehab and into centers.
You can't force them.
Oh, you can't, of course. So now everyone.
No, wait a minute.
Hang on, Aki. Let me finish my
fix them.
thought, right? Okay. The problem with homelessness is that there are mental health issues. If you're not dealing with those mental health issues by taking people off the streets who don't belong on the streets. I've witnessed personally people who are whacked out in metros, scaring the shit out of little teenage girls because they were yelling at them at top of their lung, because obviously this dude had mental issues. He had no place being outside in that metro. That dude had to be either on some sort of medication, which he's not on because he doesn't feel like taking it, or he needs to be in an institution where he is of no threat to anyone.
No, and most of them can be fixed.
Well, if they can't, then you need to institutionalize them. And coming back in a liberal sense and saying, oh, everyone has human rights, you can't touch everyone, you can't force anyone to do anything. Bullshit. There's a greater good that has to happen out of this thing.
Okay. So number one is to really.
So they
go
have
to
a place
homeless-
at the table.
To really go and make the heart of your argument the reality and the challenges that the homeless are facing. If you want to do that, then let's dig a little bit deeper, okay? So number one, yes, there are means for society to be able, when somebody poses a threat to themselves or to the community, there are legal channels that you can go through in order to have that person
It's not
institutionalized.
working. It's not working.
We don't have enough courts. We all know, we've discussed it before. The lack of resources in order to be able to do these things properly.
Right.
Right.
But there seems to be enough resources to open up free injection centers.
So guys, I'm gonna.
Free injection sites are a legitimate part of dealing with homelessness.
I'm going to call for a pause in the
But
discussion.
we're getting sidetracked.
we're getting more than sidetracked.
Yeah.
Well, but
So
this-
if we want to have
No.
a conversation about homelessness,
That's another topic.
that's another topic. If we want to have another conversation about how badly governments are broken and how inefficient they are, that's another conversation.
it's all interrelated,
of course, it's
unfortunately.
interrelated, but I want to keep
Yeah.
the gist of the conversation flowing in the
Right.
sense of I don't want to lose track of this whole anti-liberal movement.
But this is why. So this
Okay.
is why
But
there's
what-
an anti-liberal movement for all of the reasons. I've
articulate
been-
it.
well,
Why?
because people are fed up. People are fed up of being overtaxed. People are fed up of marginalized people all of a sudden having more rights than they do. People are fed up of free injection sites that are down. Hang on, that are down the street from grade schools, and kids seeing guys defecating on the streets or screwing in front of them while they're going to school. Little 8, 9, 10-year-olds
Right.
are watching this, and all of a sudden, no, we have to do this because this is going to be good for them.
Okay, I want. You're on a roll. I want to encourage you to continue. What else? What else are people reacting to?
Those are the examples.
Okay.
That I,
All right. So
Wait. Before we come back to Dominic, anything you'd like to add to Naren's
Well, first
list?
I'd like to correct what you said. I didn't say they take from the rich. They take from the hardworking people and give to the lazy, not the rich.
okay. So first of all, to your point,
Yeah.
there are in societies where they do a better job of dealing with these social issues around homelessness. Portugal is one. Switzerland is another one.
Yeah, but we don't live there.
No, but we're talking. I'm sorry, but the focus of our conversations is for the world. You know, we address issues and we want the world to be able to relate to.
To support Aki, and this doesn't happen often, folks, but to support Aki, if there are best practices
yes, that
somewhere
work.
in the world,
that actually work.
Right.
then
Fair.
we shouldn't be beyond studying them and adopting
Peace,
them.
fair.
Okay, that's fine.
Fair.
And to your point about the safe injection sites,
Yeah.
yes, there are successful models, but yes, we've also screwed that up considerably. So that's another conversation.
But that's why the libs are under attack, because they keep. The problem is they don't back down. So the problem isn't that they're opening up these sites. The problem is when they open them in the wrong place and they get pushback. They build that wall and say, no, we got to do this. It's important.
Yeah.
This is for the society.
Yeah.
Back
Yeah.
the fuck down.
Yeah.
When you're wrong, you're wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, and they're not doing it, and this is why libs are getting bashed like crazy.
There is a solution which I have, because for those who don't know, I do have a background working with the homeless, and there was a conversation that I was involved with, and I can tell you where it starts with in terms of really, if we want to just take 2 minutes to really focus on the homeless, where it really starts in order to make a difference is you need to be able to accompany these people. You need counselors, for these people to be by their side.
Yeah, I need money
and
to do
people
this.
and people who can access the hospitals with them, who can access the justice system with them, to rebuild their self-confidence, to deal with their addiction, the consequences of their addiction. This is a personal. Personal accompaniment is the key to dealing with the homeless. What does that mean? That means that for every homeless person, you need to have like a ratio of 1 counselor to 3 or 4 homeless people. That's your solution.
Wow.
It's about $100 million is going to cost us. I mean, if I look at just our local situation, it's about $100 million when we talk about the salaries for these
And that's
these
a city of
counselors.
3 million people, just for everyone. So we're about 3 million people in
Right.
the city.
Okay, but we're also spending money, like almost $1 billion on an infrastructure roof, which is the Olympic Stadium. But that's another conversation. All right.
Okay,
So if
fair
you really, if this issue is, it's concerning to that extent and is diminishing us to that extent, well, there are solutions there.
Aki, what would be the success rate?
In a situation like I saw that. The people that
Percentage.
If you had a ratio like that, you had a counselor, for 4 or 5 homeless people, you would be over 90%. Over 90%. I have seen it. So I'm
I
sorry,
can't believe
guys.
that.
Well, but Dominic, we ask questions and we answer questions without defining what we mean. What is success?
Shame on you. Shame.
But what is success?
Well, success that person becomes a contributing member of society.
Absolutely.
That's success.
Absolutely.
What you think of as a contributing member of society may differ from what Aki thinks of as a contributing member
Well,
of society.
To be able to live off the street, no longer have a street.
To have a job, to make their own
Yeah.
money.
Exactly.
to not-
I've seen that. I've seen the
not to get
successes.
one
But it's not
penny.
95% to his point. It's got. I wouldn't believe it to be 95%. Maybe to get off the street and live in social housing. That's one thing. But forget about social housing. How about getting out of social
Right.
housing
Okay.
into regular housing,
But-
having a 9 to 5 job?
Some of these people, to be fair, also need to be institutionalized.
Yes.
Yes. So
They're not to get reintegrated
Yes.
into society
So-
in the way you're
Well,
describing.
fair.
They're not.
that
yeah, I made
goes
that.
in-
Yeah, exactly.
That
Yes.
goes into the percentage.
But this is where I go back to my example. This is sometimes the conversations you're able to have. But once you build that trust with the person, then you can come to to an agreement about the yes, I do need to be institutionalized. That's the way it works. So there are
There's nobody
methods.
who's going to say I want to be
Yes, there are.
institutionalized.
Yes, there are. Because this is the other thing. Is like the low regard for human beings. We all have a common denominator, and our common denominator is to be able to live a peaceful life where they can be independent. They don't have to be, they don't have to be dependent on others. They can have their autonomy, their freedom. Everybody wants that.
Everybody.
Everybody.
So guys, to be fair, again, I'm not going to defend his viewpoint. I just want to add that some of these people don't have the mental acuity
I agree.
or health to be able to make decisions for themselves.
Mental health.
Yes.
Oftentimes, they have family members or close friends who actually step in on their behalf and try and help to get these people institutionalized. And they're rejected. The system just throws them back out onto the street.
Yeah, because there aren't enough
In
resources.
in spite of others' efforts.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? It happens.
That's an issue. And again,
Right.
we're just talking about one issue about the liberal agenda, which is homelessness.
But I'm not sure. It's interesting because, we spend a lot of time looking at whether we're talking about liberals or conservatives, people whose ideology is at the margins, and they tend to consume all of the oxygen.
Well, it's the
So one of the
polarization.
questions, one of the questions coming back to this whole anti-liberal movement is the degree to which the people who are in government waving the liberal flag, do we believe that they truly accurately represent the interests of people who consider themselves left-leaning or liberal?
No.
Or are they mostly, these officials, mostly representing the interest of individuals who are at the margins?
So, what about?
I think, politicians, all they want is those votes. So they'll pander to whoever they think is going to be voting for them.
I kind of disagree. In my view, I think the liberal agenda has been hijacked by people who are far left.
That's what I mean.
And
because
part of it.
because
yeah,
you're,
but-
you're
but the
working, you don't have time to go and...
Yeah, but the electorate is
So
most times
I think where he's disagreeing with you is they're not pandering to the electorate.
because the electorate is like 5 degrees on each side of the middle, most of them. So usually in a society like 70%, I'm just throwing out the numbers, in my view anyway, like 70% of people will be center, 5-10 degrees left, 5-10 degrees right. Okay, that's where most people are. They're not way at the end over here where it's like, okay, guns and kill everybody on one side and let trans people, whatever, run
My
government.
point was that these people, these marginals, have so much time on their hand that they have time to focus on these politicians and getting their attention. Whereas
Wait,
they're-
hold it a second. That's lobbying. That's what lobbying is. Lobbying is, you have people who are just
Yeah.
focused on very specific, narrow interests. That's lobbying. It's not just, liberals. It's conservatives. It's the corporate world. Everybody
Yeah, but
operates
it's,
that way in a democracy.
The ones that seem to be with this leftist agenda and all these, bridge climbing marginals, they seem to get...
Environmentalists.
Yeah. Well, they seem to get everybody, the politicians' attention.
The environment and climate change is one of the premier issues that we're dealing with.
I think a growing number of
And
politicians.
you climb a bridge to make that point.
Well, when you were with civil rights and you were you were resisting police officers who were telling you to move on. I mean, that was civil disobedience as well. I'm not saying I necessarily agree with that, but civil disobedience has been a part of our fabric.
You put that on the same level.
No, I don't.
Okay.
No, I don't. But I'm just saying anyway, let's go back to socialism. So the socialism. First of all, to your point about the politicians. Yeah, you could disagree with policies. And, we know we've had this discussion before. But on paper, yeah. I mean, if you look at our example, if you look at the example of the United States, the current democratic administration, absolutely, it's an administration for the middle class on paper. I mean,
What's that?
It's an administration for the middle class. So it's not just marginals.
Wait.
It's not just
So wait a second. Wait a second.
Sorry.
As always, you're entitled to your opinion. I'm going to respectfully suggest that the results of the most recent U.S. election suggest otherwise.
And as I was very clearly, I wasn't saying whether it's right or wrong. I'm just giving an example. Just the conversation we're having is about politicians. About politicians, thinking that they just pander to your point, just to a very few marginal voices. And I'm saying no. It's a little more nuanced than that. And we have like the governments that we have in this country, the government that the Americans had. The election happened. People disagreed with their policies. That's another conversation. But I mean, they at least they are representing middle class interests. That's their mandate. That's what they got elected for. And they lost. And they lost.
I don't think they are.
Lost the election on that basis.
I don't think they are. I think they lost the election for many reasons. One of the reasons that I think most contributed to the Democrats losing the most recent election is the sense on the part of the middle class and others that they are completely out of touch with the day-to-day realities of Americans.
Yeah, exactly.
Completely out of touch.
Okay.
And the whole narrative during the campaign, and we can come up with 1,001 reasons why, she didn't
Well, it
have
was
time
the
to prepare.
anti-wokeness as well.
Well, I think being out of touch, a whole narrative that centers around issues that are not the top 1, 2, or 3 issues people are concerned with, right? And I'm not saying that they're not issues that people should pay some attention to, but they're clearly not what resonates with the audience.
Like climate change.
And people are also reacting to this environment of overregulation.
Yeah.
Right. Again, all the airwaves, newscasts, we're being inundated with messages that have nothing to do with the day-to-day challenges of the average person.
Okay, but we agree that we do need some regulation in our society.
Some.
Okay, so,
but don't intervene in every facet of life and give the impression, leave your constituents with the impression that don't worry, Big Brother is watching over you.
Okay.
People don't want that.
Okay. So there's
the message should be clear. People do not want that.
So there's still the major point to be made that 70 million Americans still voted for Harris.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So
but she lost.
It's not. She did lose, but there's still 70 million, half the voters, close to half the
She
voters.
lost bigly.
Close to half the voters who.
But what is the point?
The point is that it's not just
the U.S. is polarized.
A very important segment of the population
That doesn't
supports
matter.
middle class issues and middle class policies. And they voted for her. They lost the election.
No, I don't think that's a fair statement, because you have a lot of people who comprise the middle class who actually voted for the Republicans in the most recent election, right? And I can argue that Harris got a lot of votes from members of the middle class and others, members of society, who didn't like Trump, and so they chose Harris instead.
But
not because they're enamored with the liberal
All right, but you
agenda.
can't. How do you define that block of 70 million voters that voted for the Democrats?
Losers.
Okay, well.
I define it as half of America. America is I keep repeating myself. America is a diverse country that is currently divided pretty much in half. Pretty much.
Okay. Do we agree? Do we at least agree though to the point where, on paper, that politicians they have certain platforms that cater to certain members of our society, and the current government, the American government, cater to the middle class. Our government, our liberal government, caters to the middle class here. So do we at least agree?
No.
On paper?
No.
Okay. Well.
No, I don't. I don't.
Who do they? So who are they? Who are their constituents?
First of all,
They
I would
They cater
say
to themselves.
the middle class is eroding. So when we say middle class, it used to be this all-encompassing term where we can easily
You can buy a
conceive of the
house.
majority of society fits in middle class.
Yeah.
Now what we see is an erosion. So the middle class is moving in small part, towards wealthier status. So upper middle class, if you want to continue using a class system. And you have the bulk of what used to constitute the middle class that is moving more and more towards that border of poverty. Mm-hmm. So lower middle class having a harder and harder time making ends meet, right? Not being able to afford the so-called luxuries they used to enjoy, less and less discretionary income, right? The perception that their dollar isn't going as far. And more of these people have become disillusioned and disgruntled with the liberal agenda.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying.
So what's the solution to that? You've identified, you've done a very good job of just describing, the problem. So what is the solution?
Why are we trying to find a solution? The
Because
reality,
it goes back.
you know what the solution is? The solution is that the liberals or the left have to stop being so goddamn left leaning. Okay? If they can come back and become a little bit more centrist,
Well, they used to be.
which they used to be,
I agree.
then all of a sudden things will make sense. In the US, most people, and like 70% plus of people, agree that you can own a gun, but you should have some regulation around that. Not, a crazy person shouldn't have a gun. Okay? Most people agree with that.
It's not happening.
But it's not happening because of the polarization.
But there's also no foolproof system.
Yeah.
I'm
not
sorry.
suggesting. Hang on. Let's not dive into that one thing. But all I'm saying is that if the liberals would come and be a little bit more centrist, and the conservatives would also come and be a little bit more centrist, then all of a sudden this polarization of society wouldn't be happening. That's the problem. The problem is
not to the same degree.
Yeah.
No, right now, and everyone, by the way, is borrowing from the Trump playbook of "I'm never wrong," and they're dying on every fucking mountain.
But not everybody gets away with what Trump gets away with.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're using his playbook. No one wants to back down.
Well, then they're stupid.
Well, they are absolutely.
If we're referring,
We're talking about politicians.
Because if we refer to it as the Trump playbook, it's because it works for Trump.
Yes.
Doesn't mean it's going to work for anybody else.
Yeah.
And I think one of the
But they're
issues, you
behaving that
came
way.
back to the current administration in the U.S., so let's spend a moment on the U.S. I believe that Biden won the 2020 election in part because the majority of Americans viewed him as a centrist.
Yeah.
The reality that ensued was that because he had to cater to members of his party who tend to be further left-leaning, that by the time Harris, who's already perceived to be way left of center, became the candidate, most Americans said, based on the Biden track record and based on my perception of Harris, I want no part of that.
Okay. So I'm not
What he said.
Yeah. So I would counter that by pointing out that if you look at some of his primary policies.
Hang on. Are you disagreeing with what
Yes,
he said?
I'm disagreeing with what he
Okay,
said.
what
If
are you
look at-
disagreeing with?
I don't think he went too far to the left, Biden. I'm sorry. I think he was pretty mainstream.
But he said he
It
was
doesn't-
centrist.
No, hold on. First of all, with all due respect, it doesn't matter what you think and it doesn't matter what I think. Because I'm not telling you what I think in terms of how I perceive Biden. I'm telling you how Americans perceived what he did and became extremely dissatisfied with the performance of the current administration and wanted no part of Harris.
Okay, so I just want to point
100%.
out. I'm just going to point out the following facts. Number one, on his economic policy, if you take the Chips and Science Act, for example, and repatriating manufacturing and business development in the United States itself.
The average American would tell you he's throwing tens of billions of dollars
At Intel.
at chip manufacturing companies, and I'm struggling to put food on the table. What are the priorities?
Okay, so the answer is I'm bringing back good, high-paying manufacturing jobs to the United
doesn't
States.
address my family's
Talk to the people of
needs
Ohio.
in the near term.
Talk to the families of Ohio. Talk to
How
the
did they-
families
how
of
did they
Ohio.
vote?
Ohio.
How did
I'm not
they
sure
vote?
how Ohio voted. I'm not sure how you voted. I think they voted
red.
blue.
They voted round on the sides and high in the middle.
Okay, so no, but let's just keep it really grounded. And if
Yes.
you look at so you're saying that he was you said earlier that he was hijacked by the extreme left of the Democratic
I
Party.
didn't say he was hijacked.
His policies were left of center, further
What
left
was-
than he was perceived to be when he won the presidency. Is what he's
That's what
saying,
I said.
and that's what I'm agreeing
We're
with
one-
100%.
Maybe the only on economic policy, certainly not mainstream democratic economic policy, which is about favorite
Aki, anything that you say doesn't matter because they lost.
No, but I'm saying what I'm.
But he's just trying to point out why they lost.
You're trying to articulated the points they articulated, which
When they
did not-
lost.
which did not resonate with the audience
I
they
am
were
saying
addressing.
all I'm trying to say is the following. I'm just trying to say no. In terms of policies, in terms of concrete actions, he was not an
It doesn't matter what you think.
He did not skew to the extreme left. Doesn't matter what I think. Look at the facts.
The
Look at
facts are
the
they did
economic
not
policies.
They lost the election for a reason.
the facts are that most Americans
Would disagree with you.
found themselves in a financially less privileged position
Yes.
Yeah.
4 years into the Biden presidency than they did prior to the Biden
Right.
presidency. I'm not going to get into all the reasons why, because that's a 4-hour conversation. All I'm going to say is most Americans, that's the reality they're focused on.
And I'm saying is that it's not because he tilted too far to the left in his policies. That's what I'm saying. That the end result, we agree on the end result, but it wasn't because he tilted too far to the left.
Okay, you keep forgetting, I think, that the economy for the average American means two things: their bank account and their paycheck.
Yeah.
Not the stock market,
And the gas prices.
Okay, there's a disconnect. Look, there's a disconnect there. If you look at just the economic statistics, by some indications, salaries now are going up in the States, way ahead of the level of inflation. Unemployment rate is the lowest in the world. It's almost full employment. Those are the stats.
Yeah.
On the ground, people did not feel that. I understand that.
Okay.
There's a huge dissonance.
But the people have spoken.
There's a disconnect. There's a complete disconnect. The reality of the day-to-day American.
Right,
And by
I
the
agree.
way, it's not, we keep talking about America. It's not only a U.S. issue.
Right.
Yeah.
This anti-liberal movement is actually...
It's global.
It's worse. It's worse
Right.
here.
And it's actually in Europe. It's going pretty bad as well,
Yeah.
because they're going nuts with some of this stuff.
across much of Europe, that's true.
Exactly.
Look at Italy with Giorgia Meloni.
When the pendulum swings too far, people get pissed off, and the pendulum swung way too far left, and people said, you know what? Enough of this garbage. Enough of all of these asylum seekers that we're letting in. When Germany lets in 1 million asylum seekers, and it's like, what am I going to do with 1 million people coming into my country, trying to assimilate them and all the rest of that stuff?
Okay.
Right? There's a certain amount when you go too far. Please agree with me that it went too far. If they hadn't gone that far, maybe there wouldn't have been a backlash.
He doesn't have to agree with you. He doesn't have to agree with you. We're here to talk about why.
Why? It's because
There's a
of the
movement.
pendulum swinging too far
Right.
left.
But I would say
It's perception. It's there's a perception.
You don't think it went too far left?
I don't think. If I
of course he didn't think.
Biden's administration was not a left.
Forget Biden. I'm talking
left-wing
about
administration.
Globally, don't you think that the world went too far
Well,
left?
hold on a second. Globally, the UK just elected a Labour government, center-left government. France stopped the rise of the far-right nationalists in the legislative elections.
Okay.
So it's not a clear-cut thing. It's a stalemate.
It's not a stalemate because we're
Well, I
talking.
just gave you concrete examples.
There are, so again, there are specific details behind why the UK has moved in the direction it has, why France is moving in the direction it is. If we look across Europe, right, the European Union holds elections, as you well know, and it was clear during the most recent European elections that there is a movement across Western Europe towards the right. It's clear.
There is a movement towards
Okay,
the right.
so that's all we're saying.
Okay, so let's go back to this.
The
idea.
anti-liberal movement cannot be denied. You can argue it. You can
Yes.
defend liberalism.
Yes.
You can defend the ideology.
Yes.
You can point out what you
But-
believe to be facts.
All I'm trying to do though is I'm just trying to bring a perspective to this discussion.
Which
and just
is?
remind, and people don't realize that. My conclusion is that people take for granted the quality of life, how we've advanced as a society in the West. Especially Europe after the Second World War, when they're absolutely decimated. And now they have, thriving economies. There's problems. Of course, there's problems.
Aki,
But this is what listen. Where do you? This is what has to be. People are not. They don't know their history anymore. All these things did fall from the sky.
Whether people know their history or not, I think what's fair to say is that people don't care about the history.
And that's dangerous.
I'm not here to discuss whether they should or shouldn't.
Okay, so-
I'm here to say it's evident from the way people are behaving
Right.
that they don't care.
Okay.
They care about the here and now. If they feel disadvantaged, if they feel handcuffed, if they feel that some of their rights are being taken away, if they feel that the government is over-regulating society, any one of those sentiments is contributing to the type of reaction we're seeing across the West
It's a split.
that translates into an increasingly anti-liberal movement. Yes, it's split. Society is split, and depending on the electoral system, you may end up with a slight winning margin or a slight losing margin. But the fact is that what we're witnessing is a move away from liberalism.
okay.
Do you think? I just want to ask you a simple question. If liberalism wasn't as far left as it's been in the past several years, do you think the backlash would have been this strong?
Tell me how liberalism has been like extreme left. It may
Look at the reaction again. We're going to come back to the U.S.
Don't talk to me about reactions. Talk to me about what are the signs.
I'm going to give you a concrete example.
of
Wokeness isn't a thing.
Share the airtime, not just wokeness. Wokeness is a thing. So I would tell you that the Democrats in the most recent U.S. election lost the support of a good number of business and industry leaders because of this obvious movement towards over-regulating, preventing mergers and acquisitions, trying to exert tight controls over how companies can behave. And business leaders are saying, we can't operate this way. You're not giving us the latitude we need in order to do what is in the best interest of our businesses and ultimately of consumers. And it becomes a debate where the government is saying, we know better than you do what is in the best interest of consumers.
Okay, that I would say to that. That's a very arcane stand to take. People are, you yourselves talked about, they turned on the Biden administration because they didn't feel they were as prosperous as they were in previous years. They feel that their opportunities were being eroded. They don't feel confident and optimistic about their ability to improve their life and for young people to have a better standard of living than their parents. Those are the issues, not arcane business strategy.
Really, and wokeness again is not part of it. People aren't fed up of this wokeness agenda.
Okay, but
I am.
how? Okay, it is there. It is there.
Aki, it takes up airwaves and it takes up oxygen. It's taking
How much
up
oxygen does it really take?
too much.
Too much.
Too much. The answer is too much.
Clearly. Society is
I don't
telling
see
you.
it. I don't see it.
Of course you don't, because your idealism and your...
No, it's not about idealism.
Of course it
in
is.
terms of, if I look at
It's like the Democrats in the U.S. who are still talking about how did we lose this election?
If I look at
Are people not in their right minds? Do they not understand that we were the better choice? Clearly not.
Okay, you guys.
And Kimmel is crying on television because they lost.
Give me a break.
What the fuck is wrong
All right,
with
but
you?
if we look at the key issues for voters in the recent American election, okay, what were the first two? The economy and the border. Those are the issues, and potentially World War III. But the economy and the border. Wokeism and trans rights, really, were they up there? Were they uppermost in people's minds?
Yeah, because they know. They know already. It's like over here, we know the liberals, it's their agenda. So
I'm not like
it was part of the discussion.
Exactly.
Aki, people are fed up.
In the same way as this idea of let's tax unrealized capital gains.
Arcane.
What conversation are we having?
There's a
I
better
know,
one.
but these are arcane issues. They're not tabletop issues for the majority of voters. These are arcane business strategies.
You know what's tabletop?
It's at a different level.
You know what?
But you're having a conversation people are not interested in having.
Going back, I just want to say, so you all seem to be saying like wokeism for you. You're fed up with it, and you.
Yes.
You see it-
Society,
you see
it doesn't matter whether we are. Society is increasingly fed up with it.
But in terms of but let's just can we just be realistic and look
About
at
what?
Look at our if you look at right now what our challenges are as a society, as a person living in this society where I live in Canada, it's not wokeism. My challenges are economic opportunity. My challenges are being able to have decent health care.
Can you not think of more than-
Are you going to mention immigration?
Climate change, immigration.
Okay,
but where is the wokeism, the trans issue with all this?
Just because for you personally it's not in your agenda or in your purview and you're not looking at it, that's great for you. That's not something that
So
bothers you.
what are your
it
main
bothers
concerns?
me. It bothers me.
What bothers you?
Because it takes oxygen and it's taking debate and it's taking time away from other things.
I'll tell you what bothers me.
Reconciliation.
Straw man. It's a straw
Sorry,
man.
I'll give you another one for Canada. Reconciliation. It bothers me. It bothers me because just throwing money at something doesn't really change it. For something that happened 200 years ago, I'm going to pay $30 billion.
Read the report of the Reconciliation Committee.
Yes.
Read the recommendations.
What does it change moving forward?
It's not just about money.
Well, it is.
No,
because
it's about justice. It's about law and order.
Justice and law and order. Yes, okay. So in the U.S.
Dismiss it. You're right. Justice.
Okay. So in the U.S. then they should make reparations then, because we're doing these essentially reparations.
But you're going to places
Hang on.
those are not mainstream issues. I would submit to
Aki,
you.
I'm giving you a part of the wokeness agenda. Okay, this is part of the agenda for me. Liberalism is
I don't know.
It's going haywire.
Unless you consider, if you guys are going to tell me Harris really was representing a woke agenda, I don't know if that's your argument. But I would.
Are reparations
tell
the
you
same as
There's no significant leader in the United States and in Canada and in Europe, that is unilaterally woke agenda.
Oh, you're crazy.
So how do you define leader? Is a member of Congress? Is a member member of Congress a leader?
Yeah.
Then you're wrong.
Yeah, you're absolutely wrong.
AOC.
Yeah, exactly.
What about AOC?
That's not part of our conversation.
But first of all, AOC is not a leader.
You just
She's in Congress.
She just said.
I thought you
She's
were
a
talking Speaker of the
congresswoman.
House.
Eh?
Speaker of the House.
She's a congresswoman.
The party whip. Those are the leaders of the Congress, not a
Oh, I
single
see.
representative.
So I see. So if you're a representative or a senator, you're not a leader.
No. Okay. We're talking about leadership. The way I define it is the leaders are the people that are responsible for governing those institutions.
So guys, okay.
And
So
the Prime Minister of Canada is not woke.
In what way is Justin Trudeau woke?
And all of us command.
we're circling the drain here.
Okay, so in all of us command.
Is that a mic drop?
Well, no, but this example, you guys agree with him that changing the lyrics of the anthem to be gender neutral is wokeism?
Honestly, I would just respectfully suggest that we have much more pressing issues in this country
Then playing around.
than
But it's
changing the
these-
lyrics
but
to a national
no,
anthem.
no offense, my friend,
Oh,
but
don't
it's these concerns and these, I'm sorry, over the top sense of aggrievement that just poison the well.
Slippery slope.
What slippery slope? We're going to go to where?
Oh, for God's
That's the
sake.
thing. It's going to go to even to regulations, laws where companies have to hire a certain number of transgenders or this or that. Slippery slope.
So we were here to talk about
Socialism.
how there's an anti-liberal movement.
Anti-liberal movement,
If
exactly.
you want to add the anti-Trudeau movement to the agenda, that's
No, don't put it in the middle of the plate now.
we have to put multipliers.
Oh,
on the
yeah,
table.
forget it. It's not even.
So guys, can we all agree that there's an anti-liberal movement globally? And in my opinion, it's because the libs have gone way too far left. And if they would have stuck to just being left of center, this would not have
Oh,
happened.
they've gone so left, they're socialists.
Well,
As
that's
simple
it.
as that.
It's-
So even the socialists don't know what to do anymore.
But again, okay. But again,
They won.
Socialism is not a left-wing philosophy. Socialism is mainstream.
What?
Social democracy is mainstream. It's an established, a preferred system of government in the Western world.
You have to define the amount of socialism.
Sweden is considered to be a social democracy.
Listen, we all have social security. There's a safety net in every democracy. It's just, where is that safety net?
That's
is it up here or is it down here? That's the discussion.
Most of Western civilization does not operate under socialism.
Exactly.
Is there an important social component?
Yes.
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 And how
it is
important
not,
is
it is not, that does not equate to socialism.
But the Dominic seems to be suggesting that there is socialism.
Dominic is suggesting, maybe somewhat tongue-in-cheek, that liberalism, right,
equates socialism.
today has moved so far left that it equates to socialism.
I'm not disagreeing with
Okay,
him.
so when I hear a liberal talking about government control of companies and the big parts of the economy and having government ownership of private enterprise, then I'll agree with you. I don't see that.
Hydro-Quebec.
Oh, come on. Okay, so the Pentagon, that's practically
Well, look at the deal.
That's not-
government run.
Trump will take care of that.
It's not a business.
Trump will take
Well,
care of that. Don't worry.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not a business.
Well, it's a big piece of the Pentagon is. Its
You're talking
relations
about
with
national
defense
security,
contractors.
you're talking about
Yeah.
defense, you're talking about military, you're talking about
different.
something completely different
Exactly.
than business as in commerce.
But do
Okay.
we agree? I mean, do we agree? Do we agree then? Then we're not talking about no government is talking about taking over private enterprise.
Oh,
Because
the-
that's the
There's the DOJ in the States who was going to force Google to sell it.
oh, for God's sake.
That's right. The Chrome browser.
Okay.
Exactly.
No, but that's what I was referring to earlier.
Yeah, exactly.
Overregulation.
Lena Khan is just like, she was perceived as a cancer by business leaders.
Exactly.
Sorry. Business leaders, the liberal side, the Democrats completely lost business leadership
Exactly.
in the U.S.
So let's just do away with regulation and go back to another financial crisis.
Aki. You're
Hyperbole.
so black and white.
Hyperbole again.
As Naren likes to remind people, we live in a world that is shades of gray. It's not black, it's not white.
Actually, that's my
Is some
line.
regulation required? Of course. To the degree that Biden allowed during his administration, absolutely not. That's moving in the wrong direction, in my opinion.
Yeah. So let's
You're
wrap
going
it
to
up,
kill.
guys.
You're going to kill innovation, ingenuity, and by the way, there are other countries that are competing for the next revolution. And if you tie one or both hands behind the backs of American companies, it's not going to end well.
Okay, but you
Exactly.
do agree that we need to have like a fair playing field for companies in international trade.
What? International trade? No. Every country is for themselves.
exactly.
Okay,
Oh.
every country themselves. So we can, we'll do business with countries that have complete disregard, no climate change policies.
Aki, you're going all over
no
the
labor
map.
policies. But that's what I'm talking about.
Aki, you're going all over the map.
I will argue that certain countries will if it's to their economic benefit.
Yeah.
Because that seems to trump everything else.
What happened when
I'm not saying
India
that's
started
right. I'm
buying
just telling you
Russian
how it
oil?
works.
India started buying Russian oil.
Yeah.
Started or continued?
Of course.
When the war broke out,
Oh.
they started buying the black market oil. They still are.
They're not alone.
Exactly. China and
Well,
so
China
on.
and
Exactly.
India are sustaining the Russian economy. And
Exactly.
they're sailing through the sanctions.
Exactly. So, listen, there's so many different things to talk about. Let's just go back to what we started or where we started
Let's wrap it up.
and wrap it up.
Naran?
Yes. So, yes, I believe the left went way too far left. I'm a social liberal. I like to think I'm a social liberal. I'm definitely
You have to add to that statement.
that I'm a fiscal conservative.
Okay. That completes the picture.
And mostly libertarian. Just don't fucking tell me what to do. But in all of that, what I like to think is that
not for regulation, in case you had any doubts.
correct. Just leave us all the fuck alone. Okay. In the meantime, though, they just went too far left. And if it wasn't for that pendulum swinging too far left, we wouldn't have had this anti-lib backlash that we have now.
I'm rejoicing to the fact that they're on the ropes, taking it on the chin. It's about time.
Okay. So I think that
Like Tyson.
some really big greasy wheels on the left are getting a lot of the grease, but they do not represent mainstream modern public policy that liberals espouse.
Okay. That's fair. That's a fair comment.
All right, guys, listen, I enjoyed the conversation. I hope our audience did as well. Thank you for articulating your viewpoints in such compelling fashion. Thanks for joining us. We look forward to doing so again next week.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.